Hey, what is going on, Dr. Dave?
Dr. Joe, it's been a couple of minutes.
It seems like it, man. Seems like it. It's only been a week, but it just
It's only
seems
been a
like it's
week.
been longer than that. Well, we want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary podcast, People podcast. And I'm one of your co hosts. I'm Dr. Joe Hamlett, and my esteemed colleague on the other side of the screen is Dr. Dave Peltz. And so thanks for everyone that's returning. Thanks for your continued listening or viewing of our episodes. And thanks to anyone who's tuning in for the very first time. We hope you'll like to come back. Hope we provide you with some type of substance that will make you return. But with that, if you have not seen our previous episodes, what we like to do is one of us introduces the topic and then we hand it off to the other one. So I don't want to sound, with this particular topic, I don't want to try to sound philosophical or get biblical or anything like that. But this topic is a little unique. And so today's topic is in the beginning, right? In the beginning. And so, like I said, I didn't want to sound like we're going to go to church or anything like that, or start talking physiological.
Philosophically.
Philosophical.
We'll get there. We'll get
I've
there.
had coffee today, maybe not enough. But so that, again, that's what we're going to talk about today, though, in the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Dr. Dave.
Well, as much as I want to make light and of the transition, out of respect for all of our viewers and listeners, and just everyone in general, I'm gonna avoid that. So in the beginning, so when we talk about in the beginning, what we're really talking about is just that in the beginning of our personal and professional lives, what are we doing or what have we done to get to where we are now? Or what have we not been doing to get us to where we need to be? So we're really looking at, we had a previous podcast, the first step. This is actually the
Yeah.
prequel to the first step. So in the beginning, what are we thinking? What are we planning? Even before the planning and the goals, in the beginning, where are we now and where do we want to be and what does it look like? What do we have to do to get to that first step, to get to that planning stage, to that goal, even that goal stage before the planning stage?
Yeah.
Where are we and what are we doing about where we are currently in this very moment, in the moment? And I think that's kind of going to be kind of a, I'm hope it sounds like it might be a key theme for this, but in the moment, where are we in this beginning right now? This beginning right now, where are we? And for me, you know, every day is a new beginning for me, and people might think, well, that's kind of weird because then you never get anywhere. Well, that's true. But when you wake up, is that not the beginning of the day? So every day is a new beginning. You have the opportunity to start over, start fresh, take that first step, set that goal, make that plan, reflect. So many of the topics we've talked about before all start coming into play, understanding your motivation. And it's kind of a complex subject now that I'm thinking about it. Did we pick the right one for today? But there's so much that goes into this that Joe and I just could not stop ourselves from saying, hey, we got to talk about the beginning. In the beginning, where are we? What are we doing? How do we get here? How do we not go backwards? How do we keep that momentum going forward? What if we're not? What if we feel like we're not moving forward? Are we still moving forward because of our actions and or inactions? So we're going to explore that a little bit. I hope that was enough and not too much. That was a lot. I think I just went blah.
No, no, Dave, you brought up a very good point, and when reflected on the fact that every day you get up, it's a new beginning, and that is true to a degree because it is a new day. The day hasn't existed before. This is the first time this day is appearing, so it is a new beginning.
I tell people
Um,
we woke up on the right side of the dirt.
Absolutely. So again, that's a new beginning.
Yeah,
But when we think in terms of our journeys, how we start, how we get to where we want to go, it does have to start with that in the beginning. Where do you, and Dave said it, kind of almost that self-reflection piece, because you have to kind of take a look at where you are today, where you want to go, and then how you're going to get there. So that's all before the planning, the goal setting, and things like that. And so for many of us, in the beginning looks different. So for me, my beginning for this path that I'm currently on, and it has changed, and it's new
It
every day.
does. It always does. Yeah.
But that initial journey for me, when I was in the beginning, how do I get started? I've said this many times before. Both of us have reflected back on our education, but that's where it really started for me. That new phase, that beginning for me was, realizing that I wanted to do something more. I wanted to do something different than what I was doing every day at that time. And it did take that self reflection, that critical self reflection, and thinking about, this is where I am today. This is where I'd like to be in the future. And then I started to put the pieces together on how I was going to get there. So it really
Yeah.
took that almost, some people call it a midlife crisis, or
Or I mean, but
or an
what if it's not even
epiphany.
midlife? What if it's
It,
just that need for change? Because when
absolutely.
you're talking about that, and I know I'm interrupting a lot earlier than I normally do, I went back to, well, the military was my point of change, or my degree was, my college was my point of change. I'm like, well,
Right.
no, it started before that. It was military, and then I'm like, it was before that. It was in high school that I realized that I'm not going to be in high school forever, which is
Right.
probably a
Right.
good thing. It's not a career aspiration most people have, is be a lifelong high school senior. And I started thinking, well, I need a change, and that change, the way I can facilitate that change is going into the military. So I did that. So that was my first time that was one of my first beginnings. And then, or one of my beginnings, my next beginning, to your point, Joe, was starting college. It doesn't have to be college, it doesn't have to be higher ed, it can just be a trade school. So
No, you're absolutely correct. The beginnings, it is all, basically our entire lives. But I guess where I was going with this was more the deliberate,
mhm.
new beginning,
Right,
because you're right. Transition out of high school into adulthood, all those things, married, all those things are that new beginning. But I really think about when I made that deliberate.
that deliberate,
Okay, I'm going to make
conscious choice.
changes. I need to do some things different. That was that conscience new beginning for me, because like I
Mhm.
say, most of those other transitions are natural. Like you say,
Right.
you're not going to be a high school
Concur.
senior for
Concur.
the
Yeah.
entire life. So, but this is the first time, and it just happened to be for me 40 years old, and that's why I kind of referred to as
Right.
maybe a midlife crisis. But this was really the first time when I said, "Hey, I need to change things. I need to do things differently." And that's why for me that's always going to be significant, because I made the choice,
And I
and
think
not
I
just
think you just said it right there. It's significant. There was a
right.
catalyst. There was
Yep.
something that happened, either physically, environmentally, cognitively,
Right.
emotionally. Something happened. Doesn't have to be. It could be traumatic. Maybe it's not.
Yep.
But you have that moment when you're like, I've got to make a change if I'm going to get to where I want to be, and that then becomes that beginning.
Yep. Yeah, so that's where that's where typically it takes me back to, because that's the first time, that I made that conscious decision to do something different, to better myself, to improve myself, to start a new journey, to create something new. And so that's why I always reflect back to that one, because again, we've done that in our entire lives, was to, get going in a new down a new path, down starting a new journey, new beginning. That happens all the time. But it's when you make that conscious decision to do something different, improve yourself. And Dave said at the very beginning, whether it's career development, personal development, professional development, but it's where you sit down consciously and say, hey, these things need to change. And so if you want to start measuring whether you're achieving those things, that's when you roll into, the goal setting, and having that what that level of success looks like for you. You start defining those things, but it has to start with that new beginning. And like Dave said, we have a new beginning every day, multiple times a day. But it's when you really make that conscious decision, I need to improve. I need to change. Something needs to give. That's
Right.
when, you
Something
can
needs
really
to
start
give.
to,
Yep.
yeah, you can start to measure that part of it. Because again, I may have gone down that path, which I had done in the past, and started going down that path and saying, you know what, this is not the path that I want to take. I'm going to choose a different route. And that happens too. But again, you're now open to those possibilities and
Right.
those
Like
opportunities.
starting and stopping school or something like that.
Absolutely.
It just may not have been the right moment. And then you you find that moment, and then that becomes your new beginning when you actually continue forward. And one of the terms
Absolutely.
we threw back and forth just prior to the show was, breaking that cycle, and I think that's really a key phrase. I know it's kind of an old one, but there's a lot to it when you think about it, relationship wise, you know, career wise, whatever. You've got to break that cycle. If you don't want to be in a certain career field, stop applying for jobs in that career field. If you don't want to be in
Right.
a certain group, stop hanging out with that group. So if you want to be someplace, go there. You have to break the
Right.
cycle and where you're at to start so you can have that beginning that you're looking for, that you're needing, or that you're wanting. And it could be, unfortunately, Joe and I have both been there. We've been laid off a couple times in our career, and that can force a new beginning. And you
Right.
might think it's, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. How am I going to pay my bills and feed my kids and, make my car payment? But then you realize, when you pause and take that breath, this is one of those opportunities to where you can start and have that new beginning. May not be easy, but that could be that catalyst right there. Or you get that degree, or you get that certification, or it's just that aha moment that you find something that you really love and enjoy doing.
No, I think bringing up the word catalyst, or that something that occurs that, in some cases, like you said, forces you to start that new beginning. That's important. I think recognizing that there's something that needs to change, and like you said, it may not be because of your own process, but something outside of your control that leads you to that new beginning. And so I think the other thing that you said that's very important is to take a pause, take that breath, and then reevaluate. Okay, this is a new beginning. It's not my new beginning that I wanted, but I have to be able to move forward. So I need to identify this as that opportunity for this new beginning, and whether it's learning a new craft or a skill, or changing my environment from one part of the country to another, or around the world. So it's just that, taking a look at, again, it still goes back to what I said initially. When that new beginning arises, you take stock of where you are today, and then you look at where you're trying to go, and then you can figure out where to get to. And that's why I think what Dave said is very important. That critical, just pause, just take a breath, take a time to kind of evaluate those things, and don't just jump into it, without doing that evaluation, because you could
Yeah.
realize that you'll be making another new beginning sooner
Right,
than
right.
you'd
And
like.
it may not be a nice new beginning or a happy new
Right.
beginning, but at least it's a new beginning. It's an opportunity for you to make some different decisions,
Right.
to
Right.
try something new, or just to make maybe it's a redo, you know,
Right.
maybe it's just it's an opportunity, really, when you think about it. I said in the beginning, every day is a new beginning. What are you going to do with that day? And I
Right.
did a briefing the other day for the military, and I'm like, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, because to me,
Right.
every
Right.
day is a new beginning.
Yeah.
There's new opportunities, there's new people to meet, there's new things to do. It's not meaning that I'm just like, stumbling through life haphazardly, but it opens your perspective, and it opens your mind up to different possibilities. And I think that's the important thing, is that Joe and I have talked about this so many times, and Joe reminded me of it this morning. Sometimes we just get so into what we're doing right now that we don't really remind ourselves that there's more going on, and we have to really think about, all the possibilities, not just this one that we want. I want this
Right. Right.
opportunity. What about the hundreds or thousands of other opportunities that we don't even see because we have our
Right.
blinders on?
No, I think that's very important. And I was going to jump in there earlier, but you kept going with that same theme, which was great. But no, it is that, opening your mind to the possibilities. And I've said this many times before, that's what education did for me. That was what did it for me when I made that conscious choice to move and start this new beginning, is that I was opening my mind to the possibilities of what could be. And like Dave said, we both say it all the time. We don't know what we want to be when we grow up. Just because of that, we're open to the possibilities, and we're trying to stay, focused on those opportunities. And sometimes, like you said, we do get wrapped up and we don't recognize them. So that's why, it seems like, and I think you said this at the very beginning, that if you continue to have new beginnings and open your mind to the possibilities, then you never complete or finish anything. And I'd say that's not the case, because I think a lot of times these things weave between each other because we've left them open. And then we start to see the benefit of tying this to that, and
Yeah.
to collaborating, and to doing all these things. And I think that's part of that, being open to the possibilities, and ready for the new beginning, whether it comes by choice or it's, thrust upon you by circumstances. So I think that's very important when we think about, new beginnings. They're happening all the time. And like Dave said, there's so many things that, fly past us that we don't even take the time to acknowledge or see that's really in front of us. And that's really what we did this, before we got on the air today, was just kind of take a look at some of those things that's happened to us in the past couple of years, and just really realize, look at it differently,
Mhm.
keeping that mind open to, well, we did this, it didn't pan out the way we wanted it, but we were still able to gain this from it. And I
Right.
think
Yep.
that's most
And that's
important,
exactly, yeah.
is that,
What did you glean from it? What did you gain from it? Just because
absolutely.
you didn't hit the goal, or you missed the mark, or you fell short, or went left instead of right. That was weird, left instead of right, but um I didn't do so well in school. um, doesn't mean that you didn't gain something out of it. And
Right.
I was just thinking as you're speaking that, it's really about opening your mind, you're opening your perspective, and maybe changing that perspective and changing the environment. So if you want to build snowmen in the desert, there might be some challenges. You might have to move
Right.
to a different environment to find that environment that fits what you want to do. And it doesn't have to be education, it doesn't have to be training. It can just be the environment, or your mental perspective. It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Mm,
I have to go to college. Joe and I love to talk about college because it was something we thought we'd never be able to do, but it's not limited to that. It's
right.
really anything in life.
No, so you bring up a good point. Just like you said, I think you said earlier, if you made the analogy with the snowman in the desert. But again, think about if you recently were displaced out of your job, and now you're in a organization that you don't see yourself aligned with, or it doesn't work. So just like Dave said, if there's, no place to, or any conceivable way to make snowmen in the desert, then what do you have to do? You have to move to a different environment. So same with you in an organization, or even if you didn't get displaced, but you're at a point in your career where you're like, you know what? I want to go build snowmen and, somewhere else, and where I know that they have snow.
Yeah.
So I may
Or at
have
least it's a
to
little bit more
change.
accessible. Yeah.
Right. I may have to change, now what I'm doing to get to that level, so that I can move to that environment where it's conducive, where it can be accomplished, or like you say, where it's closer. So
Mhm.
that may mean, again, that new beginning, thinking, okay, so I don't have what it takes to get to that new level, or that new
Mhm.
organization, or that new environment. So what can I do now that will help me align and get there? And so, I think Dave mentioned that at the very beginning. And so that right there is that, again, that conscious decision to, okay, I can't get to where I need to today, where I am at today, the position I hold. Now I need to do something different. And so now it does take that conscious thought of, okay, I'm here where I am today, where I'd like to be. Now I need to figure out what's going to get me there. And
Yeah.
so,
And that comes from that critical self-reflection, that
absolutely.
conscious choice, as you had mentioned several times, which I think is absolutely critical. You can have every day is a new beginning, but if you do not make, to your point, Joe, if you do not make the conscious choice to act on it, nothing's going to change. The environment's not going to
Right.
change. The relationship's not going to change, whether it's personal or professional, with your kids, with your family, whatever, colleagues, coworkers. If you don't act upon that opportunity, nothing's going to come out of it.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I think, again, me and Dave have, a lot of our conversations revolve around some very key things, and he mentioned it, this critical self-reflection, which then leads to understanding where you are and where you want to be. Then it leads to setting goals and keeping your mind open to the possibilities. So a lot of different things that we cover all the time, just because we talk about all these different topics, but in most cases they're in reference to something else. It's not just a one and done. Okay, I've got that master, or I've done that, now let's move on to the next thing. And I think we've said this many times, even with our podcast, we're giving you bits and pieces of different things that hopefully you can start to tie some of these things together, or see the relationship and how they exist, to get you where you need to go. And that's really what this is all about. It's just taking those bits and pieces that make sense to you, and helping you to move forward. So that's exactly what you're doing when you're doing that critical self reflection. You're taking a look at where you are today. What are the things I need to continue doing? What are the things I need to stop doing? What things should I take on a new direction? Just shift gears with it. Continue doing it, but maybe slightly change it up. And so,
Reprioritize.
absolutely. And that's why it's important. And you probably hear it on probably 80% of our podcast is that critical self-reflection, because you have to continue to evaluate where you are, to help you get to the next level, or help you to stay, in a positive light. Because Dave said it, if you understand or recognize that something should occur, but you don't, then that's still on you, that you made that choice, that conscious decision, that you understand it, and you're okay with it. So, that's on you to accept that fully, and not down the road come back and say, hey, well, I should have did this or should have did that.
You're
It's
gonna
on
own your
you.
successes. You have to own your missteps and
Absolutely.
failures too. I mean, it's just part of
Absolutely.
life.
Yeah, we were having a conversation several weeks back about, someone uh, talking about being something that maybe not everyone is accepting of, and it really came down to that same idea that you are aware of the situation. That's really what we want you to take from most of these episodes, is the fact that you recognize those things that are out there, and they said that whether you move upon it, or take action against it or towards it, that's still on you. But recognizing that if you choose to see a new beginning, but choose not to do anything about it, that's still on you. So, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. But we just want you to be informed and knowledgeable about it, so that if you make that decision 6 years, 10 years from now, even 6 months, you can say, I'm still okay with that. But if you're not okay, you're still willing to say, I made that decision. Now I'm ready to move forward, because the timing may not have been right for you at that time, or just things did not work out. So,
And
but
just
the
because you
idea
try something once doesn't mean, and you miss the mark, doesn't mean that you can't try it again and
can't
again
go
and again,
back.
and be
Exactly.
and actually do better, or become successful, or hit
Right.
or exceed your expectations. I mean, that's one of the things that kind of frustrates me in industry, is when I hear the excuse, well, we've already tried that, it didn't work. Well, when did you
Right.
try it?
Yeah.
15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Right.
Well, I don't know
Even,
about
even if you
you, but
tried it,
5 years ago, I didn't expect a pandemic, but here we are,
well,
right?
but even if you tried it 6 months ago,
Yeah,
still things have
things
changed.
change so
And
quickly.
again, the team that that's what, and we've said this before too, if you even took the exact path that me and Dave have taken in our journeys, if we gave you the entire blueprint, you would not have the same results,
Right.
because
Hopefully you'd have
people
better.
are different. Yeah, hopefully you'd have better, but the people are different, situations are different, so it's
Yeah.
never going to be duplicated. So again, if we gave you the exact blueprint, you would not have the same outcome. Hopefully, like Dave said, it'd be better. But that's our point, that um things change, and like Dave said at the very beginning, every day is a new beginning. So just because you did it yesterday, it is already changed.
Yeah, it's
It's
already
a
changed.
new beginning. It is
Yeah,
a new approach. It is
yeah.
looking at it differently. You have
You
more
can
knowledge and
change your mind.
information,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
that
can
you had
change your mind. You can
yesterday.
change your approach.
Right. The experiences that you had are now going to, help you change your mind or the decision
Do
or
something
looking at it
better.
differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what we're, when we say in the beginning, like I said, we weren't trying to say the start of all things or anything like that, but really your conscious choice to make things different, better, change things for yourself. Just those in alignment with that. And
Mhm.
again, it's in reference to your career, personal, professional development. That's what we were referring to this time,
Mhm.
this episode. So, did you have any final comments
Of
or
course I
any
do, Joe. You know I can't
words
shut
of
up. You know I
wisdom?
can't just keep my trap shut. Yeah, I think this is a great topic, Joe. I think it's one that we potentially overlooked for a long time because we do get in our lanes and we get focused on doing things a certain way, and you know admittedly we do have our blinders on to some of the topics and stuff like that. And when you came up with this topic, I was like, it's awesome because you know we do struggle. Everyone struggles every day in their own ways. And if we just think about this, that every day is an opportunity to have a new beginning, and we can do something about it, and we need to act upon those things and take action to make those changes, as small, and we've said this many times, whether it's a little step, whether it's just waking up. Sometimes that's all it takes, is to put that first foot on the floor for the day and just come in with a different perspective, a different attitude, make a different decision, try something new, try something different. That can completely change the rest of your life. It gets back to, sometimes just smiling and saying hello to someone can prevent a tragic situation and make their day
Right.
so much better. So have the confidence, find the strength to look at each day as a new beginning.
Thanks for that, Dave. And I just want to touch on something that you mentioned, during this summary. And you did mention that, taking action, you recognize it, taking action. And, I think I said it right before you started. Even if you don't take action, that's still your action. And you don't have to change it if you don't want to. But again, I think being cognizant of it and understanding, recognizing it is a piece of that as well, because not everything that comes in front of us we're going to take action on, because it may not, may not have the capacity to do it, or may not mandate that you do it, but just being aware that there's something new, and just, again, sometimes you may not even recognize it's new, but just acknowledging it as much of it as you can, and choosing to take action or not, that's still on you. But I think this was a good topic, and like you said, Dave, I think we've overlooked it because we talk about goal setting, we talk about, once you've kind of identified that, but it really takes uh, taking a look at where you want to go and doing that critical self-reflection that's important on just about anything we do. Because if we don't, and we just jump in feet first, then we sometimes have those regrets, or man, I should have just took that pause. And I think you said that earlier, taking that pause, just to evaluate, even if you just still move forward, but taking a pause and, understanding the outcome, how it could affect you positively or negatively. So I think that's important. So,
Absolutely.
um, again, great topic. So thank you all for tuning in. And if this is again your first time, feel free to come back or take a look at our playlist of all the previous episodes, to get caught up. Or if you're returning, just thank you for your support. But if there's ever anything that me or Dr. Dave can do for you, all of our contact information is in the notes or description. So we would love to hear from you. If there's topics you'd love for us to discuss, or if you have an idea, just please reach out to us. We are definitely, we said it before, we're open to, any type of opportunities to do better, and to make this something that you want to come back to over and over again. So, with that, we just want to thank you all for tuning in to this latest episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. And until next time, we just want you to continue being not so ordinary.